A cooking tip or trick?
Yeah.
You know, I did a cooking class here the other day for part of Chefs Fest, and it was really a lot of fun, and I love to get in front of people to give them tips. And you know, one of the tips that I always give during the cooking class is, don't be a slave to a recipe. So like when you go shopping, don't go shopping with a list that you need to do the recipe, because you have to be inspired by what you see that's great. So if you're doing some asparagus dish and you go to the supermarket to get asparagus, and maybe the asparagus looks like crap, and then, you know, you should change your mind and get the artichokes that look really good, and not just feel like, you know, like you're a slave to the recipe. And I think people get caught up in that, right? And I try to convince people, like, you know, lose the recipe and like go shop, right? And get all the nicest stuff you can, and then bring it home, and then start looking for recipes to find a recipe that fits the good stuff that you bought, rather than starting at home in a book with a recipe and then going to try to find the ingredients. You need to flip that.
Okay, probably toasting your spices before you use them. So adding your spices and your combinations of what you intend to use, and trying to also work with as much a whole herb or spice as possible, and then grinding your own spices. Herbs and spices that are stored inside the pantry at home generally have a shelf life of about 2 months, and so they can go very quickly. And sort of to reinvigorate them, to get the flavors to open back up again, you want to toast your spices, and so that's a really good point.
I'll tell you one trade secret. One secret that my wife actually passed on to me that I think is great is the best way to cook a sweet potato is in the microwave. So yeah, put some holes in it and stick it in the microwave, and yeah, you've got a fantastically cooked sweet potato. And that's probably the only thing I cook in the microwave, other than reheating baby's milk.
Two little tricks, and these are like $1,000 question tricks, but two little tricks that I always do in the kitchen that always help the novice cook or the home cook. One is incredibly simple, but it really makes a huge difference. Before you prep your vegetables or whatever you're gonna prep, taking a paper towel, wetting it, and putting it underneath the cutting board so the cutting board doesn't move is something that most people don't do. And I'm always amazed when I go into a home cook's house and they're cooking dinner and they're chopping on this cutting board, and the cutting board's like spinning all over the place and moving across the counter. Just a little paper towel underneath will make it stable, safe, and make your cooking experience that much more pleasurable. The other thing is that if you're, say you're prepping an onion or you're cutting some vegetables and you have all the little scraps that you're not going to use, and you have your garbage can across the kitchen, you're constantly going back and forth across the kitchen, and you've got this really messy cooking area. If you just have a bowl that you use as a dedicated garbage bowl as you're cooking, and you fill that up as you go, you can keep your station nice and clean, really organized, and then you can cook much more efficiently.
My signature trick, I mean, honestly, my signature trick, you probably hear this a lot from chefs, is simplicity, right? Buy the best ingredients, source the best ingredients, trust the fisherman, trust the farmer, trust the rancher, trust the person or the family that's growing the fruit, or raising whatever you might be using. Really simple, classic techniques. I was trained in traditional French food, and so it's all technique driven, really simple execution, and letting the ingredient shine be the star that it is.